Are you happy about the VAT on schools and the tax rises under Labour? Apparently, we're going to be facing £8,000, £8,000, the average middle-class family in 2025. £8,000. That is not a small amount as a result of indirect and direct taxes coming into effect last year, including council tax, children's education, all of these sorts of taxes. Put them together, £8,000. How can they possibly claim that they're not taxing working families? It's a load of nonsense. It's a load of lies. And they literally stood there and lied to you and I. They lied. And it makes me really angry. So a lot for us to discuss this morning. Are these waters fresh as well? Tommy, these waters, how long have they been out on the side? Well, can you run the tap, please? Because they taste like they've been sat there for 3 days. Oh, thank you for the apology. I'm a diva this morning, aren't I, Charlie Rowley?
You are in fine festive form, Cristo.
Do you know what? Do you know what it is? It's so rare, right, that I do a show at a time now where I've had a good sleep. And I had 9 hours sleep last night. So actually, this is my personality. This is who I am. Normally I'm too tired. I'm like, oh, I'll drink whatever water they give me. And, oh, God, whatever's going on. But this morning, I'm like, God, I've slept. My motor's running.
You are?
My tail's wagging.
Oh.
It really is. And I'm furious. Actually, I am furious. I'm so annoyed by this headline, both of them. Middle classes support VAT on private schools, says, what's her name? Bridget
Phillipson,
Bridget,
yes.
the supply teacher.
Bill. Yes.
Look, is she... I mean, it's gaslighting, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, it doesn't add up. And, of course, nothing that Labour seems to do adds up these days. But I just don't think it's... Of course it's not true. Of course it's not true. Look, people understand that, in the state school sector, you need to make sure that the roofs are being held up, that the money's there for all kids across this country. But the idea that you're saying to middle-class parents who, by the way, a number of those parents who have kids with special educational needs who pay a lot of money, and we're not talking about, by the way, the Eatons and Winchesters where it's, thousands and thousands of pounds. These are sometimes fees of about £3,000 or £4,000, which I know is still a lot of money, but there are some parents who pay for their kids who've got special educational needs to get extra support in private schools because that's not provided in the state school. SEN, exactly, because it's not provided in the state school sector. These are the parents that are middle class, yes, but they're going to be hit the most, and their kid is going to have to go in now in over-inflated state school.
Well, it's their fault for having a child with special educational needs.
Well, that's that's how Labour would sort of punish you for it.
I genuinely think it is, and it's just. Do you know what's so annoying about this? I don't know why I'm so angry about this morning. I'm really, really furious. Is that, and again, tell me if I've missed this. She says middle-class parents have largely been priced out of private schools, and that's why there is such support for our policy. But then you would go on and say, because we've done a poll and this is what the poll says. There's nothing in the article, in her quotes, to say, and this is why I know there's support.
Yes.
This is the statistic to show. We've done focus groups. We've done market research. It's literally, she has just, and forgive the image I'm about to give you, but she has literally pulled this quote out of her backside.
She must be the only person I know that says that someone's priced out of something, therefore going to put on an extra 20% tax on you. You need to make sure that you're priced out. If you weren't priced out before, we'll make sure that you are by the end of the day.
Yes. Here's a loaf of bread that you can't afford, so we're going to make it more expensive for you, and that will help. And then there'll be widespread support for that loaf of bread.
Yes, exactly. Because everybody wants to spend more money on my loaf, yes.
She's not bright anyway. I mean, have you ever seen her being interviewed? And I don't mean to be unkind, but she may be very academically clever, and I think that there seems to be this common thread within politics, is that perhaps they've gone to particularly good schools, or they are particularly academically bright, but they certainly come across in some interviews as not swift.
Yes, because I think there's this inability to answer a question. I think lots of politicians find that difficult these days to answer a straight question, but also with the Labour government, and just it tends to be, and I don't want to be too sort of biased about it, but I do get this impression sometimes that it is always people on the left who have come from the unions. If you've been a former trade unionist, you're always thinking about that little group of people. I can't upset the unions, can't upset the National Union of Teachers, can't upset the people that fund me to sort of allow me to campaign and have my seat and all the rest of it. And therefore there's always this idea.
Union paymasters.
Your union paymasters, and you forget about the actual parents, and you forget about the pupils because you're too busy worried about your paymasters, as you just said.
Well, it does return to that quote, doesn't it? That you end up running out of other people's money. And it's true, because the issue we also have, so there are three interesting stories today. One's a little bit older, but I think it's relevant this morning. So you've got middle classes and the VAT on schools. So you've got that story. And by the way, I know that perhaps it might not be as likely if you are someone who is watching along this morning and you might have all your children in private school. But I also want you to think and answer me based on the society that we have this morning. And what I mean by that is, what are we saying to people? Where are we ideologically when we are saying to people, you are middle class, perhaps you're working class? I mean, I don't even like those expressions that much, but we have always been a nation, I believe, of aspiration. I believe that sometimes it's to our detriment. It's one of the reasons why so many people want to come to the UK, because we are, I think, an aspiration nation. We are a nation that wants to do better. Sometimes it's frowned upon. Sometimes talking about it is seen as a bit vulgar, but we do. We do. We want to do better. We want to do better for our children. And that is something that I passionately believe in through and through. It was something that when I was growing up, it was absolutely drummed into me. My mum and dad worked so hard. I mean, so hard. My dad used to do 16-hour night shifts running his business for as long as I can remember. And it was always drummed into myself and my older brother by my mum and dad. We are doing this for you. We are doing this so that you don't have to. We are doing this to give you a life that we never had. And I genuinely believe that is parenting. You parent in order to give your children opportunities that you didn't have, and that it is easier for your children than it was for you, and you can give your children a better start. And to me, that is ideologically exactly where we should be in the United Kingdom, and exactly the kind of attitude we should all have. And so it's not just about the actual money itself that they're taking from people with this policy. To me, it goes far deeper about what kind of country do we want to be? Do we want to be a country where we say to people, your aspiration to give your children a better start than perhaps you had, we're going to penalise you for that? And I think that goes fundamentally to the core as to what kind of country we want to be. It's the same as the raid on inheritance tax. We want to work hard in our life and pay tax on the money we've worked hard with to buy that asset, buy that house, buy that particular item that we would like to pass on to our children. That is a really worthy belief, I believe. I believe that again, fundamentally is what we are as a nation, what we should be aspiring to as a nation, not to have a state that says, no, that's wrong. We're going to penalise you for having that attitude. We should be encouraging you to have that attitude. So I don't just want you to think about what we're talking about this morning based on the nuts and bolts of the actual money that you would lose, which of course is important enough, but also what kind of country are we becoming? What kind of message are we sending? What are we saying to you, our children, and to the world about what we are here in the United Kingdom? 0344 499 1000. So there is the element of the £8,000 of tax rises. There's the element of the money that we're spending on private schools. There is the element of the aspiration and the ideological element to this, but also the most frustrating thing about this is that actually both with the inheritance tax and the middle class taxes on schools, there are now multiple predictions that this won't even raise more money. In actual fact, the tax take, the amount of tax raised that the government will take, will go down as a result of these policies for various reasons. So you're going to have this perverse situation where they will be putting these taxes on people and not even raising any more. Now, I know it sounds counterintuitive. They raise tax, but they get less money. But it has a knock-on effect. You might not buy that asset and the tax that you'd get from that if you are going to be charged inheritance tax when you pass it on. We saw a drop in stamp duty. When they brought in the stamp duty changes, we saw a drop in the number of transactions from houses. So I think £140 million was lost in stamp duty transactions in comparison to the previous period, because people just thought, well, we're not going to buy that property. And when it comes to the tax rate on VAT on schools, a lot of parents work extra shifts, work extra hours in order to then pay for that VAT to pay for those school fees. Well, if they've taken their children out of private schools, they'll no longer need to do those extra jobs, that second job, those extra shifts, so the government will lose tax revenue as a result of it. So it doesn't even make sense. Is it an ideological battle that this has become? There's a lot for us to discuss, and Charlie, I will get your views on everything that I've just said, because I think I went on a bit of a diatribe there. I really do.
Well, I thought that was beautiful, actually. Honestly, everything that you've just said summarises, I think, what many people, ordinary people, Brits out there who voted Labour, who haven't got a government what they thought that they were going to get, that's how people feel. I thought, honestly, I think you've just summed that up perfectly. You don't need me at all.
I can't believe you just said that was beautiful. Well, actually, I'm really touched.